I wish all courtroom dramas could end in a fight to the death. The Last Duel stars Matt Damon, Jodie Comer, Ben Affleck, and Adam Driver, and is directed by Ridley Scott. That description alone should give anyone a reason to see this film, paired with the fact that this is Damon and Affleck's first time writing together since Good Will Hunting.
I just said to Matt, losing would suck and winning would be really scary, and it's really, really scary.
This film has all the elements for a great movie, and it's really surprising that it didn't garner the attention that it deserves. Now I'll admit, I'm guilty of not seeing this film while it was in the theater, but I partly blame that on the film's marketing campaign. All I really knew about this film going in was that Matt Damon had a mullet, Affleck had a chin beard, and that it was directed by Ridley Scott. And the fact that it was directed by a filmmaking legend really should be enough of a reason on its own to go see it in the theater, but I think he's sullied his reputation a little bit due to his last string of bad movies, namely Exodus, Gods and Kings.
What am I to do?
So it's understandable that people were hesitant to go to the theater to see his latest installation, given the fact that there's still a virus going around. So I don't necessarily agree with Ridley when he says that millennials are the reason why the film bombed. I don't think that it was due to a lack of attention span. I was engaged all the way through. I think it's that Ridley Scott's name just doesn't really carry the same reputation that it once did. But I gotta say that this is Ridley Scott at his almost best. This isn't necessarily on the same level as Blade Runner, Alien, or Gladiator, but it's definitely not in the same camp as Exodus, Gods and Kings. It's somewhere in the level of Kingdom of Heaven, Robin Hood, or The Martian. So if you enjoyed any of those films, then you'll definitely enjoy The Last Duel. Now, unfortunately, this movie bombed hard. That's not to say that this film deserved to bomb. This film is actually really, really good. Right from the opening scene, you can tell that this film is expertly crafted. The music, the sound design really just immerses you into this world, and the use of no sound in order to contrast with the sound of the weighted armor, the sounds of the swords clanging, and even subtle sounds like fire crackling or boots walking gives the film a real impact and really establishes this rough, dirty, and gritty world. This movie is a political action drama told from 3 different perspectives of the same story. Starting with Matt Damon's perspective, we're aligned with him and his retelling of the story because he is the main character.
Milady, I'm pleased to meet you.
And although we're told that it's a retelling, we believe everything being presented to us since we're following Damon as the main character. When we're first presented with Damon's perspective, we're given the impression that he is a noble knight and that he fights for honor and the king.
For the king.
But that starts to fade, and we see the cracks in Damon's story when we're presented with Driver's perspective. We see that Damon uses duty as an excuse to advance his political and social career. Once the movie changes to Chapter 2, we start realizing that Damon's character is an unreliable narrator. While Driver's character is telling his perspective, the audience is meant to think that his relationship with Comer's was something genuine and that Damon was the villain keeping them apart. But it turns out to be much, much more complicated than that. Once we hit Chapter 3, Jodie Comer's perspective, we get the actual truth. This is where the film really shows the audience how Comer feels about the entire situation. In almost every scene in Chapter 3, Comer feels trapped in her role. All of the subtle changes in storylines become much more apparent when Comer tells her perspective. When we see the story through her eyes, we see that this movie has never been about her honor. It was always about the ego and self-preservation of the men. The men in this film use duty as an excuse for committing horrific acts, whereas Comer's duty as a noble woman is to procreate and provide children for the men. This idea of using duty as an excuse is really obvious during the film's final duel. Damon and Driver claim to fight in the name of honor, but in reality they're fighting to save their own reputation. Overall, I thought this film was incredibly well directed, well acted, well edited, and the set designs were amazing. If this film doesn't receive an Oscar in some category, then I've lost all faith in Oscars. Again. I just hope that it regains some sort of rebirth through streaming and word of mouth because this film is really fantastic, and it's a shame that we're not going to get another one like this for a long time given the box office results. On a scale of 1 to 100, I would give this movie a solid 78.
Was it easier this time around?
I think we were more efficient this time.